Well, hello and welcome to the show. You are watching The Nth Degree TV, the place to be to take your career from stuck to unstoppable. And I'm your host, as always, Tracy Timm. So excited to have you here today. It is Wednesday, which means we're bringing you another awesome interview that is going to give you the tips, the tricks, the tactics to move forward in your career with confidence. And I'm really excited because today's topic is where to start, or better yet, how to start a career search for a new job. And I thought to myself, like, what better place to start than with somebody who's literally starting their career? And I've been so fortunate this summer. I've done a lot of the work on my business alone and using contractors and people who are remote or virtual, or even this PR firm that really supports this beautiful studio that we get to use every week. But I haven't really had a whole lot of people in the office with me, like boots on the ground doing the work. And this summer I'm so thankful because I actually have a handful of interns who are graciously giving me their time and doing such good work. And I have one specifically who's here today with me. This is Will Florence, and he's joining us. He's a rising sophomore from Wake Forest, and he's working with me all summer, and we're doing some really cool work together. And so I figured, what better place to start when we're thinking about starting a career search than somebody who's literally starting their career. So Will, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be in the studio. It's really cool.
Yeah,
we're here.
Awesome. So today we're really going to talk about, what Will and I are doing, but really what he's doing to kind of get started in his career, and the stumbling blocks, the things that are going well, what he would do differently, what he's really excited about, and hopefully we're just going to unpack a lot of the confusing parts of getting started in a career and getting started in something new. So Will, if you wouldn't mind, would you give everybody a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. I've lived in Dallas, Texas my whole life. Went to Parish Episcopal School over in Farmers Branch and had an awesome experience there. And then ended up at Wake Forest University in North Carolina for college, and I'm having the best time there and learning a lot. And it was good to just kind of get a new part of the country and get to experience something totally new with nobody that I knew before. So it's been a great year.
That's awesome. And so, obviously we're working together, which means you've already started thinking about what you want to do after school. So could you help, I guess, me and then people who are watching really understand what's your mentality as you're approaching figuring out your career, and what steps are you consciously taking to make sure that you end up doing something you really love?
Sure. So the first major step that I've taken towards finding what I want to do is accepting that I don't know what I want to do.
Excellent.
So that means that I didn't declare a major going into college because I don't know what I want to do. And I wanted to go to a school where I didn't have to declare a major until my spring sophomore semester. So I still don't know what I want to do or what I'm going to major in. I'm just taking classes that I like and that I think will be applicable to me down the line. But a lot of it is just coming back home over the summer and trying to leverage some of the connections that I've made throughout high school and some of my parents' friends and stuff like that. And just trying to find out some of the things I don't want to do and find some skills that I'm good at that maybe I can use down the line.
I love that. I want to go back to what you first said, though, because that cracked me up. Is step one is just accepting that you don't know.
Right.
Because you guys, like, I talk to you, right, all day long. There's so many people that I talk to who just can't accept that they don't know, and it keeps them paralyzed and it keeps them from taking any action at all. So we're going to go deeper into the actual things that you're doing, as far as leveraging your connections and building skills and really finding out what you do and don't like. But can you help me understand how have you allowed yourself to accept that you don't know and take an action anyway and not let that not knowing kind of paralyze you?
Sure. So a lot of people these days, when a lot of young people feel like they have to know right away where the ultimate goal is, because then they have to do this and that to get there. But a lot of it has just been talking to my friends. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Oh, I don't want to do that. Or
Sure.
whatever. And a lot of young people when they're really truly honest with themselves, don't know what they want to do. And that's not a bad thing either, because it just leaves so many options open, and you don't have to shut really any doors.
Yeah, I really found that it's the rare person who's known like from birth, like, I definitely want to be a doctor, I definitely want to be a pilot, and it's always those things. It's never like,
exactly.
I want to be a tour guide in Tahiti who has a specialty in frogs. Like nobody, the things that we actually now find ourselves doing and making money doing that we just never even knew existed. But you're right, it's really rare, and I think if more of us were honest with ourselves and with our friends, right? The misconception comes from the fact that we think everybody else has it all together.
Exactly.
But so do you actually talk to your friends about like, dude, I don't know, and this is scary, and how are you?
Sometimes. I mean that's something that I've enjoyed getting into college, because in high school I wouldn't have talked to my high school friends about that. But getting into college where there's all this independence and where everything is focused on college being the springboard into your next step and what are you going to do when you graduate, and being around seniors who actually are right there, and where are you living next year, like how'd you find that job, and it's been really cool to be able to have some of those conversations, and people like to talk about themselves, so if you just ask the right questions, you can find out some really interesting stuff about people.
That is so true. And it's something that we talk about. So you've, been going through our program, the Nth Degree, and kind of helping me, just shore things up and make sure that we've got the right tactics everywhere and the right strategies, and really, little things like no typos and stuff like that. So one of the things that I hammer home in that program, especially in the networking part, is that people do love to talk about themselves. I think that oftentimes we think that we're asking too much of people, maybe, will you help me? Will you answer this question? Will you guide me? Will you mentor me? That kind of thing. So do you ever feel like that's holding you back, or are you just, what is it that draws you to asking people more about themselves, and how do you get over that hurdle?
I wouldn't say that that's holding me back, but part of it is just looking for the right time to ask a question. Like there's a time and a place for everything, and it's finding when people will be not necessarily vulnerable, but be open to just discussing how they got to where they are, whether that's sitting at lunch and you've just been talking about your days and there's a little lull, and or somebody brings it up and then you just dive into it more.
Yeah, I love that. And I know too that you've been, what's really shocked me, and not shocked me, but I was never as forward thinking as you. It seems like you are in college. Like my freshman year, I was like, all right, what am I going to wear to the party on Saturday? Like that's as far forward as I was thinking. But I did do what you're doing, which is find something that you love to study, or topics that you're really fascinated by or interested in. And I think I chose the school that I went to do that. So can you talk about what your process was for picking Wake Forest, and then how you're really taking advantage of being there? Sure.
So my entire family all went to one Texas school.
You can name it.
UT. Everybody goes to UT. And in my graduating class, actually, there was 100 change kids, and now over 20 of the kids from my class are at UT.
Oh my gosh.
So there was just overwhelming. Everybody goes to UT. Like it's simple. Just go to UT. And I, well, first of all, it's huge, and I like to get some more closer connections than that. And I felt like I would just be lost there.
Sure.
And also I would have to apply to whatever school, to the liberal arts school or to the business school right away. And I couldn't make that decision. I just wasn't ready to. So I also just wanted to go and figure out more of myself, because I knew if I went to UT, I would just keep my same friends that I had from high school and just go straight into it. But I wanted to go in and organically meet people that I hadn't been friends with since I was 5. So I could really just find my people more.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. When I first got started in the business, I was just looking at anybody and everybody who spoke to, young professionals about career, spoke to college or high school. And there was this guy that I ran into named Blake Fly. I don't even know if this guy still works. If you're out there and Google him, let me know. If you're watching this, Blake Fly, I'd love to meet you. He was an inspiration for the beginning of the business, but he had this whole theory on what we should be thinking about when we pick schools, because I think a lot of us go into where we're going for ridiculous ridiculous reasons when you think about how much money you're going to spend there and how much time you're going to spend there and the people you're going to meet while you're there.
Right.
And I know I was really fortunate to get recruited, and so I had a different experience than a lot of people, but I felt drawn to Yale. Like, it felt like my people.
Yep.
It felt like my sort of vibe, like
right.
academic, and I could be a big nerd, but I could also be athletic and accepted. And if I ended up not playing athletics after a while, which happened, that I wouldn't be, socially outcast or whatever. So how are you, now that you're there and you feel like you made a good decision? I know we've talked about that.
Yep.
What are the things that you're doing just on a day-to-day basis or a, semester to semester basis to really solidify that experience and
right.
get the most out of it?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it really just comes down to being where you are comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, you're not going to be yourself and you're not going to put yourself out there and be vulnerable. So that's been huge for me, because on my visit, I just felt really comfortable and felt like a home, and I got to get in there and immediately just met so many new people, and everybody 80% of the students are from out of state, so everybody didn't know anyone.
Yes,
so it was awesome to just have everybody wanting to meet people. But yeah, I mean, it's really just where you see yourself becoming more of yourself.
And how are you picking like classes or what you're doing with your time?
So I'm taking the prereqs for all of the business classes while also taking all of the required liberal arts based classes, or that's what I did my freshman year. And now I'm moving into some of the things that I'm more potentially interested in, like I'm taking an entrepreneurship class, or I'm taking like a philosophy class and a psychology, but also taking like your econ and calc classes. Right. So it's kind of just all over the board, just throwing all kinds of darts and seeing what sticks, really.
I love that. I mean, what really, if you don't know what you want to do, like, what better way than to just scattershot and see what sticks? So what have you found that you've been drawn to so far, and what have you taken where you're like, oh my God, dodging a bullet, not going to do that?
Right. So I just finished up my econ class, which seems like everybody takes econ classes, and there's all kinds of econ majors all over the place. And it just didn't click for me. Wasn't really for me, and it just seemed like it was harder for me than it was for everybody else. So I feel like I'm kind of dodging a bullet by not going that route. But I'm really excited for my entrepreneurship class, because it's a little less structured, and I'll be able to just go in there and have my own ideas and work on a team, which I'm really looking forward to, because I haven't gotten as much of that in college as I did in high school, obviously with sports and such.
Sure.
But those classes have been great, and I loved my intro to philosophy class first semester of my freshman year. So I'm just going back and taking another one, and I mean, if I love that one, I'll take another one. So
I love it. And what I really like is that you're giving yourself the grace. Listen, there are plenty of parents out there who are going, all right, what are you going to do with philosophy, right? Like, what kind of job can that give you? And I am such a fan of, like, study something you love to learn about, because you can always leverage an interest or a passion or a thing that you want to stretch towards.
Right.
Like, those are the key questions, and you've heard me ask these to tons of people by now, right? What do you want to stretch towards, and who do you have a heart to serve, are two of the best questions you can ask yourself when you're just starting out on your career search, because it gives you direction. Like, it gives you something that you can see yourself not only doing, but enjoying the journey of doing and the journey of learning, which is huge. So also, you took this really cool leadership class, right?
I did,
Can you talk about your experience with that?
Sure. So at Wake Forest, everybody's required to take a freshman year seminar, which is an English class, but it's also there's range of topics from, I had a friend that took fig leaves to fashion, where it was just the study of fashion through the years. Yeah, he got placed in it. He was, but the upside was he was the only guy in the class, so he
there
loved
you
that.
Go. So who really won?
Exactly. But mine was leadership, essentially simple yet a lifelong study.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved it. My teacher was the former ROTC head at Wake Forest, and it was good for me because he wasn't super picky on the English side of it. It was more just general learning, which was great. I mean, we still wrote plenty of papers and had all those kinds of things, but it was every day we would play some sort of team building game where at the end of it he would go, what does this have to do with leadership?
Yeah.
And then it just made me think a little differently about how stuff that seems stupid can be applicable, and how you should be trying to learn from everything that you're doing. But ultimately, the class culminated in a bigger paper where I had to go interview somebody who I thought was a leader in the Department of Politics, Business, Sports, and the military. And so I got to interview some incredible people, from the president of Hunt Oil to former Olympic athlete Jeremy Warner to Congressman Colin Allred.
Wow.
And just got to pick their brains a little bit. And it's something I would have never done without the class.
Sure.
But something that was super beneficial to me, and I got to talk to some people that I really look up to.
That's amazing. Like, what a cool opportunity you had to. Well, the fun thing about that, and I'll tell you guys, like, the younger you are, I think the easier this is, because the older we get, the more we put sort of these social barriers in our head. But if you're a freshman in college and it's your assignment, right, to go interview somebody who's untouchable, like Colin Allred's hard to get to, especially right now. Like, isn't he running for president perhaps, or like campaigning or something? I don't know.
He's all over the place.
This is the part where you obviously know that Tracy doesn't follow the news very much. So, but anyway, like you did the scary thing before you knew it was scary, because you had to. And this, which is what leads me to one of our shared experiences, which is working with Cutco.
Yes.
By the way, coolest knives ever. I still have them. So does Will. So I want to get. The reason I want to bring up Cutco is because you're doing that while you're in school, kind of, or the summers, right? Ish, or last summer.
Yeah.
How are you choosing your work experience now, either while you're in school or over the summers, and how are you doing that in a targeted way to really get started on this overall career search?
Sure. So really, like, my first real job was with Cutco, and that was an incredible starting point for me, because
explain that to people at home in case they don't know what it is.
So I got first a week-long training of sales, marketing, whatever, and then I just got thrown out to the wolves. My friends' moms mostly,
who can be wolf-like sometimes, I guess.
But to sell nice kitchenware and knives, and a lot of people made jokes out of it, and it was fun. It was a good experience of just learning to talk professionally and learning how to present yourself. And that was great for me. And then for Parrish, my senior year, they forced us to get an internship during the end of the year, which a lot of us are really excited to do, because it was in lieu of some of your non-AP classes. They just ended early, which was great. And I I didn't know where I wanted to go, and I was talking to my college counselor, because I got really close with her during my senior year. And
awesome.
She was like, you know what, like, I have this friend that works at United Way of Metropolitan Dallas. Let me reach out and see what she's doing. And then that got me into their ground floor program, which for people that don't know what it is, it's basically Shark Tank for nonprofits, which was a just great experience for me, because I got to not only go learn under this amazing professional woman, but also go meet all these CEOs of 12 nonprofits around Dallas, because United Way was helping them with grants, but also putting them through a boot camp to learn about marketing, learn about how to handle finances and how to scale and stuff like that. So I got to sit in on those. I got to meet these great CEOs who have kept in touch with a couple of them, which has been awesome. And then, so this summer I was like, okay, I want to do something new. So one of my mom's friends, who I've gotten pretty close with, works for the Communities Foundation of Texas. So I was like, oh, I'll just try to go work over there. So he put me in contact with one woman. I went and had a meeting with her and brought her my resume. And then she was like, yeah, we're not hiring right now, but let me see if I can get your foot in the door anywhere else. So she got my foot in the door somewhere else. And then this woman named Jessica Nunez then put my resume out to her group, which was Tracy. So it really is just kind of, for me, it's just been getting your foot in the door one place and seeing where it would take you and making the most of those opportunities. And one thing that I thought that I did during my freshman year that has paid huge dividends for me was I had my resume that I used to get into college that high school helped me make, where I had all my high school achievements, my GPA, all of those kinds of things.
Sure.
And then I went to the Wake Forest Office of Personal and Career Development, where I was like, this resume it's great for getting into college, but no professional is going to take it seriously, and it doesn't say what I want it to say about me. So I sat down with them and trashed my old resume and made a completely new one, which obviously has worked because I have 2 internships over the summer, so that was huge for me to do. It was kind of a pain at the time. My dad was kind of bugging me to go do it, but I'm really glad I did.
That's awesome. So speaking of which, we need to put in a phone call to them, right? That's also a beautiful mouthful. The Office of Professional and Personal...
OPCD. That's what we call them.
I love this. Everybody has to have, a different name.
Yeah, they got the dogs and that are always in there every day, and they're fun over there.
Love that. So what I want you guys to take from all of that, which was a really beautiful journey, right? Like you went from, I reached out to my college counselor, and then I met some CEOs, and the following summer I reached out to my mom's friend. She put me in touch with somebody else. That person put me in touch with somebody else who eventually got to me. This is exactly how, and I want this shot right here. This is exactly how you do this. This is exactly how you execute to build and leverage a dedicated network. Because if you guys were listening, it's not like he was knocking on doors. It's not like he was redoing his resume. It's not like he was looking on Indeed and job boards. He actually went through human beings. And I can't tell you how many people miss that. Right? That the power of the people in our lives is so huge, and our network wants to help us, right? Like, right. I know Sejal personally, which was why it was fun to get your resume through her to then Jessica to then me. But she didn't benefit her at all to get you a job or an internship, right? She wasn't making commission. She wasn't right. It's goodwill. People want to be helpful, and you're a naturally social person. Right. And I think you've seen, and you and I have talked about how you see the value in leveraging, and leveraging is a bad word, right? In building and growing a network and having people who want to go to bat for you. Yep. So do you do that consciously, or was it just kind of like that made total sense and you just did it because it was natural?
I think kind of a little bit of both, where I've had both experiences where subconsciously I was just forming a great relationship with my college career counselor, not because I thought I was going to get anything out of it, but because she was just an amazing woman that I wanted to get to know. But I've done that with other people where it hasn't helped me or whatever, but it's still just good to build those relationships because you never know down the line. And but also, like, going and meeting with Sejal, I was super nervous, where I kind of had this one lead of where am I going to get to, what am I going to do this summer, and that's the importance of some of those other jobs that I've had, where I've learned to speak professionally and learned to carry myself professionally, where I was going in there, I'd never met her before, but just going in and establishing a rapport with her, and then telling her some of the things that I wanted to do and that I wanted out of the summer. And it's people, and you're right, people do just want to help. So you just have to show them that you're willing to be helped, and that you want, and that you will prove them right.
Preach. You have to be willing to be helped. There's a great, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but if you're into TED Talks, there's a great TED Talk called The Art of Asking for Help. And it's this woman who talks about how actually her band has been crowdfunded ever since they got started. Oh, wow. And people paid for their gigs. They paid for housing for them. They paid for the funding of them, like, copying a new CD. And she's like, it's beautiful because they feel like they're a part of your thing, of your mission. And every single person, wherever you end up going, I feel like I'm going to be a part of that story. And Sejal is going to be a small part of that story. And you've leveraged that, yes, altruism, but also, like, I feel like I get to be part of Will's success story thing that people really want. So, and I love that you said that you were nervous and this was your one thing. How did you, when she said, oh, we don't have anything, I'm sorry, how did you bounce back from that and say, okay, this is not a dead end, I'm going to continue to pursue, whatever could come from this relationship? Right.
So I think that the reason there was, we don't have anything, and I think that the reason that she said, but I can set you in touch with these other people, was because right when I went in and started talking to her, we had some small talk and found some things that we had in common, where I actually had known her son in high school, where we had all of these mutual friends, and she was asking me, oh, how's so-and-so doing? And I was like, oh, they're doing great. How's this person, and just being able to connect with somebody before talking business, where it's more just about establishing those relationships before just getting in there and getting to the nitty gritty. Because if I've gone in there and been like, hey, I want a job, and she would have been like, no, sorry. But the fact that she saw me as a person that she knew she could help, I think went a long way.
I love that. So if you're giving advice to somebody, and you're probably, lovely Will here is 20, right? So like he's still receiving advice himself,
all
right?
the time.
Fair. But if you were going to give advice to somebody who's starting a career search, no matter really where they are, but they know they want to do something new, they don't know what it is necessarily yet, they don't know what they want to do, but they know that they're meant for something different and that it's out there, how would you counsel them, based on your experience? What would you tell them? Where do they start? And how do they start? And what are the most important things you do at the beginning?
I would say that the most important thing would be asking questions. And it's like we were talking about before, asking the right questions at the right time to the right people. And sometimes that just means asking a lot of questions. And one of them will be a good one that takes you somewhere and that you learn something from. But really that has been so huge for me, because I would ask the seniors that I knew at Wake Forest, like, how did you get to here? What did you do as a freshman that you thought was great? And they were like, oh, I updated my resume and went and got a summer internship that is now turning into my job after college. So
yeah,
stuff like
I love that. I think what you've done really beautifully too is do things just because you enjoy them. Do things just because it's right and it's good to do them, and not necessarily because of the transaction or the outcome that you're going to get from it, which is easier said than done, right, guys? Like it's totally easy for us to sit here and go, yeah, be altruistic and just go out there and build rapport and make great conversations when you're struggling or when you hate your job or when you really want to make a change. But the reality is, if you're not a person in front of another person, if you're a robot, if you're a transaction, if you're just trying to get something out of somebody, people can tell.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, well, I've just adored this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
I'm so lucky to have you, and I think that a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this, because we're all in some ways still looking for what we want to do, right? And for me, I love seeing it through your eyes, because you're seeing it for the first time.
Right.
And for those of us who've been doing this for a little bit longer, maybe you're not 20, maybe you're 25, 30, 40, 35, 40, and you want to start a job search for a new career, it can be daunting and scary, and you can think that you know all there is to know and that you've tried everything there is to try, but seeing it through somebody's eyes who's doing it for the first time is really a gift. So if you had one piece of advice that you wanted to leave everybody with when you're starting, how and where to start a new career search, what would it be?
Figuring out what you like to do and look for ways that you can make that into something that you can make a living off of.
All right. You heard it here. That's simple. Obviously more to come. Maybe we'll do another one of these at the end of the summer, and we'll see if he actually learned anything from me. But at the very least, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to do a lot of great work, and he's going to learn a lot. And that's the thing that I want you guys to take away from this, is that it's so easy to get paralyzed by the not knowing, or to get paralyzed by the fear of getting it wrong, or starting a job and hating it, or changing jobs only to go from the frying pan into the fire. And I get it, but I think you only fail, and I think this was apparent today, you only fail when you stop trying. Because when you stop trying, you stop learning. And when you stop learning, you just have no new information with which to make better decisions. So I hope that today was an inspiration for you through the eyes of two people who are young enough to give unbiased advice about where to start when you're looking for a new job and a new career. If you want any more resources that we can help you with, please go to tracytimm.com. In fact, we actually have a retreat coming up. It's here in Dallas. It's actually like only a week or 2 weeks away. It's going to be June 27th through the 29th here in Dallas, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a whole total career clarity retreat using our nth degree methodology to help you take your career from stuck to unstoppable. If this has really resonated with you and you want to connect with either of us, you can go to tracytimm.com/clarity and book a call, and we'd be happy to talk to you about your career strategy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of the Nth Degree TV.